Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to work on our admin panel and add some widgets and charts to our dashboard page. And also I would like to show you guys how to add some kind of statistics widgets on our post and maybe even our users page. We'll see how long it takes for us to implement all of those. So it's going to be a fun one. Let's get right into it. So before we do that, I actually want to show you guys how to remove or get rid of these two widgets that are placed by default, right? And all of these are actually controlled on the Filament service provider. So let's go ahead and find that file first. So the file is located under app providers, Filament, and then admin panel provider. So if you want to search for it, just search for admin panel provider. Now you may have played around with this before, but if you haven't, this is basically where you customize almost all the major parts of your panel, right? So the path, if you want to change that, the primary color. So the default is actually amber. We can go ahead and change that as well. So let's see what color options they are. I'm going to just go ahead and if you guys have, if you're on PHP Storm or whatever, or on VS Code, if you have PHP IntelliFence, you can do on Mac command click or on Windows control click, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the class and you can see there are a couple of different colors. Let's say I select, I don't know, let's do indigo, okay, just for testing purposes. And if I do a quick reload, as you can see, the color changes. So if you want to change the primary color, we can go ahead and do it over here. I like the amber, the default amber color. So for now, I'll just keep that. We might change it later on. It has a couple of things for discovering custom pages and resources. So again, this is where it automatically detects all our resources. We don't need to register them. So this is where it's defined. We have the pages. So right now we have one page defined, which is our dashboard page, right? This one. So if I were to go on the categories page and then comment this dashboard page, just like this, and go back, we are no longer able to see the dashboard, right? So this is also where these are defined. And next up, we have a section for discover widgets, right? And similar to discover resources, it will basically allow Filament to automatically detect widgets to show on your pages, right? And it assumes, or it expects them to be inside Filament widgets folder. Now this folder does not exist at the moment, right? So if you go to Filament, there is no widgets folder, but if we had one with some widgets inside, it will automatically register them. So we don't need to manually register them. And then it has, as you can see under here, has added two widgets, right? The account widget and Filament info widget. So I'm just going to go ahead and comment both these guys out. Let's go back. I need to go back to the dashboard page. And as you can see, we are no longer able to see those things, right? If I just add one of them. So that's the first step. Let's go ahead and get rid of these. As a matter of fact, I don't need these. I don't like them. Now, some people probably prefer to have the account widget because it does show the user's name and then says welcome and with a sign out, but I don't like any of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. And then there's some other sections for middleware, and there are actually more things you can do over here, such as adding plugins and things like that. That's a bit outside the scope of the video. So let's go ahead and start off by first creating our first widget. And what I would like to do is I would like to show some stats regarding our users. Okay, so I want to show all the users, the number of admins, and then the number of editors. And I want them to show them in like a widget format over here. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. Now for the command, you can memorize this, or as I showed you guys, I think on the first episode, you can do PHP artisan filament, and it will go ahead and I believe, yeah, we need to do PHP artisan make, sorry. And it will go ahead and show you all the available commands. There is actually one called filament widget. So that's the command we need to, but you can also refer to the documentation. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So on the documentation, guys, make sure you're on version 3. Under the section for stats overview widgets, there are actually 3 types of widgets: stats, charts, and then tables. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to use an stats overview type of widget. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the command over here, and let me zoom in a little bit more for you guys. So that's the command, make filament widget, then the name of your widget, and then the type of the widget, right? So stats overview. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to terminal, type in PHP artisan, make filament widget. Now for the widget, I'm going to say user stats widget. You can name it whatever you like. Now for me, I prefer to add widget at the end of all my widget names. So it's a bit easier when I'm searching it on VS Code. You may have other classes that are kind of named similarly to your widgets. So I prefer things to be clear, right? For example, when I search user, I know, okay, this is a user model, user factory, user policy. So for the widgets, I'm also going to do that as well. I'm always going to add the widget suffix. And then after that, you need to add the type, right? And for the type, it's going to be stats overview. So I'm just going to go ahead and say stats overview. That's all. Hit enter. Now, after that, it's going to ask you for some additional stats configurations. The first one is, would you like to create the widget inside a resource? Now, in our case, you can actually have the widget be shown on the dashboard page or on your custom pages or under a resource. Now, even if you create it for example, a dashboard page, you can still show it on the resource or vice versa, but this will impact where the file is placed or located. Now, in this case, because this is a widget for users, I will actually put it under the user resource. So I'm just going to go ahead and say user resource. And then it says, would you like to put it inside the admin panel or the app Livewire? I personally prefer to put it inside the admin section or basically inside the filament folder, which is over here. So I'll select the first one, but if you like, you can go ahead and select the second option as well. And that's all we have to do. So now it has gone ahead and created our widget for us. So let's see what it has done. So right off the bat, if we go ahead and we take a look under the user resource, there is now a new folder of widgets. Again, we don't have that for our post or comments. So this was just newly created. And then inside of it, as you can see, we see our user stats widget. So this is the new file. So let's take a look at it. It's a simple class that extends the base widget class, and then it has a section of get stats, right? So in this case, you can have as many stats as you like. Now, if you also want, you can go ahead and register these on your pages. So we'll go ahead and cover that in a second. So in order to add these stats basically inside this get stats method, we need to return our individual stats. Now, let's go ahead and open up the documentation. If you just scroll down a little bit more, they actually have an example which we can use. So every stat is a type of class stat. We just need to do stat make, and then the first one is kind of the title of that stat, and then the second argument is the data you want to show. That's all I'm going to do actually. I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing they done over here. You can copy it or you can just type it in yourself. After using it a couple of times, you just automatically memorize it. So we can just say stat, and it is part of the Filament Widgets stats overview widget called make. Now, as I mentioned, I would like to show the total number of users and then admins and maybe editors, okay? But just for example, you can obviously show whatever you like. So in this case, I'm going to say total users. And then for this one, we can go ahead and import our user model. Make sure you always import these classes, guys, very important. And then just call count, okay? That's it. So let's go ahead, let's go back. Now, if we reload now, we are not able to see the widgets, right? Even if you go on the dashboards page. So in order to be able to see this new stat that we added, we need to go ahead and register the widget on our users list page, which is this table over here. So how do you do that? Well, in order to do that, you need to actually go ahead and open up your user resource file, or if you're, for example, doing it for post, open up your post resource file under pages. And by default, you have 3 pages. You can, of course, add more. So, and each of these are going to work a little bit different. So for example, on the edit page, you're obviously showing the stats for a specific user, right? So your widget code is going to be a little bit different, but we are in this case showing it for the list users or the table page. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. Now in this case, we need to go ahead and override a method that allows us to register these widgets. So the definition for this method is almost identical to get header actions, except for get header actions, we need to do get header widgets. And as you can see, VS Code is recommending it to me. There is also another one for get footer widgets. So you can also go ahead and add widgets at the bottom of the page. So it's up to you which one you want to use. In this case, I want it at the top. So I'm just going to say get header widgets, and it does return an array. And I believe it is somewhere mentioned here. Let's see, is it? It is not. So it's somewhere in the documentation, guys. I'm not going to waste time searching for it, but it is mentioned in the documentation. So you can use either of header or footer. And then inside here, we need to return our widgets. So we can just say user stats widget, which is the widget we just created, right? So the class. and then just call class, okay? And of course, make sure you're importing it. If you're not importing it, obviously it will not work. So that's it. That's all we have to do. And you can add as many of these widgets as you like, right? In this case, we only have one, so I'll just add the one we have, but you can add more of these. All right, so let's go back. Let's do a quick reload. And now, as you guys can see, we are able to see total number of users. Now, the way the overview stats widget types works, it's technically a combination of widgets. So you can technically go ahead and add, if I go ahead and I copy this, it's actually like a combination of widgets together, right? So it's not just a singular card, it's a combination of cards. So you can put all of them in a singular widget, but of course, if you want, you can have different overview widgets and then separate them by what kind of data they show. So in this case, this one's for all the users. So I'll put all the user related statistics in it. Okay, so next up, I wanted to show total admins, I guess, and then total editors, right? I'm just making some stats up. I just want to show you guys how to do it. And then I'll leave it to you guys to go ahead and make your own custom version for your own needs. Now, in this case, we need to check if the user is an admin and then obviously perform that. So if we open up our user model, we can go ahead and use this role over here to check if the user is an admin. So let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, we can say where role is user role admin. Now we could have also created a scope for this, but I don't think that's necessary for now. So let's just go ahead and do the exact same thing for editor as well. So I'm going to say role editor. And that's it. So total admins, I guess, total editors. So let's do a quick reload. And as you can see, we have that many users. 2 of them are admins. And then 1 of them are an editors, right? Something like that. And let's also add sort functionality here. I do want to see who else is an admin. I'm not sure. So let's open up our user resource while we're over here. I'm going to add sortable to the admin, to the role column as well. So let's reload it. Yeah, so we have 2 admins. One is Sean Little, and then the other one is my own account. Okay, so now we have created our first statistics, just like this. Okay, so now one more thing I would like to show you guys is when we created this widget, we added it under our user resource. That does not mean you cannot show it anywhere else. We can show this widget anywhere we want, even on our dashboard page. So let me show you guys how we can do that. So let me save this for now. We can go ahead and open up our admin panel provider, right? The service provider for Filament. And again, in the widget section, we can still go ahead and use our user stats widget. So in this case, I'm going to say user stats widget class. Okay, so this is not only for the user's resource. You can show it anywhere, even on the posts page. Okay, it's up to you where you want to show it. So, and if I go to the dashboard page, now we are able to see these guys as well. So that's for the first type of widget I wanted to create. Next up, I want to show you guys how to create a chart. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now for the charts, I'm going to open up the documentation. Under the stats overview widget, there is a section for chart widgets. You can just go ahead and click on it. Now the command is almost identical. The only difference is we need to do tag chart instead of tag stats overview. So that's the only difference. Now the way you implement it is a little bit different, so I'll cover that in a second. So let's go ahead and create our first chart as well. And for this one, I want to actually show it on our dashboard page and maybe also our posts page right at the top. And I want to show the number of posts published per month, right? To see how many posts we are publishing each month. So let's go ahead and create that widget right now. So I'm just go ahead and type it in, open up the terminal, type in PHP artisan make filament widget. And in this case, you can name yours whatever you like. In this case, I'm going to say posts per month charts. You can name yours whatever you like. We can maybe also name it post trend chart. And I think this is just one that comes to my mind right now. And then we need to do tag or dash chart, hit enter. It will ask you the same stuff that it asked for the stats overview widget, right? If you want to put it inside a resource or not. If you don't like it, you can just hit enter. It will put it inside the actual filament folder inside of widgets. But because it is related to posts, I'm going to put it under the post resource folder. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to say post resource, hit enter. I hope there is no typos. And then obviously select the first one as well. Now, after that, it's going to ask you what kind of chart you want. You can change this later on, so it's not like fixed. But in my case, I think I'm going to go ahead and select a line chart so we can see the trend over time. All right, that's all we have to do, guys. So let's go ahead, close the terminal. And if you open up the post resource, there should now be a new widgets folder. Let me make this a bit bigger. And then now we have posts per month chart, right? So we have the heading here, which is basically the title of the chart. Then we have a get data, which is where we are going to pass in our data. And then we have the type, right? So you can change the type to whatever you like over here, okay? So if you go ahead and scroll down, because I don't want you guys to memorize this in case you want to do it later on your own, the best way to go ahead and do it is just by looking at the documentation. So if you guys go ahead and open up the documentation and scroll down, you can see under the get data in the return statement, we need to pass in a data set, which is going to be all our data points, data, right? And then we need to pass in the labels. And if you have worked with any charting JavaScript library before, this is basically the same way they do it, right? So you pass the individual data points and then the label for each of them, right? Now you can go ahead and write the queries to get all of these, or we can go ahead and actually use a package that makes this a little bit easier. So I'm going to scroll down. There is a section for generating data for our charts. And the Filament team actually recommends using a package of Laravel Trend. I have used it. It's actually a lot easier to do it with Laravel Trend than writing the queries yourself or the eloquent queries. So I recommend you guys go ahead and actually install this package. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click on documentation. I wanted it to open it on a new page. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's basically a Laravel package that allows us to write these queries that get the trend data a lot easier. Otherwise, you need to write a lot of unnecessary code. So let's go ahead, just scroll down. And we can just go ahead and copy this composer command over here. I'll just copy it. Of course, if you like, you can write it yourself. So I'll just copy this, open up the terminal, paste it in, hit enter. Now, while that is kind of doing the installation, it's relatively easy to use, guys. You just access the trend class, pass in the model you want to run your queries on. You give it a date range, and then you say, hey, give me the count or the number of items per intervals, per month, per day, right? This is basically how you want it for your charts. And I'll show you guys in a second how that works once the installation is done. It's still requiring it. Okay, it is done. All right, so now that that is done, I'll just make life easier. I'll just copy it from here, and then we can go ahead and customize it for our own use case. So I'll just copy it from the Filament documentation, so we save some time. So let's do it over here. Let me format this. So the dates set and the labels part is going to be exactly the same. So I believe it did install it. So first we need to go ahead and import the trend class. So first, after you call the trend, you need to pass in the model you want to run your queries on. So in this case, we are performing it on our post. So in this case, I'm going to say post. Make sure you import the post model. So next up, we need to pass in the date range, right? So what we need to do, guys, is if you have a chart, and let's see if they have an example here. They don't. But if you have a line chart, we are showing the number of posts published per month, right? So for example, we have 5 posts on January, 10 posts on February, I don't know, 2 posts on March, I don't know, another 2 on April, just like that. So usually if you want to pass into the data, this is what we need to pass in on the data over here, right? So we need to pass in 5, 10, 3, 2, right? And in order to get this, you need to do, write your own queries. So this package allows us to get our data in this format very easily, okay? So that's what it does. So first we need to pass in the date range. So in this case, it is saying start is start of the year, and we are using a lot of Carbon for this. So the now method actually just returns a Carbon object. And then here we can say start of year, right? Now you can have this be anything you like. You could have be, I don't know, start of month, or we can say sub month, let's say 6 months from now, before. So it's up to you what kind of query you write. In this case, I'm going to have it be start of year again, the default. So that's the date range. And then next up, you need to tell trend how you want the data to be returned, right? So in the example I showed you guys, we had it per month. We can also have it be per day, okay? So how many posts we have per day, and it will actually give it to you in that format. I'll show you guys once we are showing the chart. Right now, because it's not visual, it's a little bit hard to see. So, and then obviously we want the count, right? In this case, you have other options. So if you look at the GitHub, you can say the average, mean, max, sum, right? So if you want to sum it, maybe you have like a website that does transactions. You can see how many transactions, like the sum of the transactions in USD. Maybe you can use this sum, okay? So I'm not going to go over it too much right now. Let's actually see the chart, and then we can come back and play around with it, okay? Now for this section, I'll copy it back from the documentation so we don't have to type it in. So we need to import trend value as well, just like this. So we're just calling, because it's like a collection that it's returning. So it's a collection, we should just call the map and convert all the values and get it in an array format, right? So the format we needed, and we're doing the exact same thing for the labels as well. Okay, very nice. And then a blog post, I guess I keep that as is. So let's save this. Now we need to go ahead and register this. So let's open up our user list page and also add it. Sorry, we need to do post list page. Yeah. So let's go pages, list posts. Although I will copy it from the users list page. So let's add the get header widgets. And then instead of this user stats, we need to do posts per month chart. That's it. So let's go back to our posts page. We should now be able to see the chart over here, guys. Okay. And as you can see, we do see the chart. So now it looks very ugly because we only have all our posts are on a single, basically, month, right? When we published the tutorial on YouTube. So we don't have any blog posts on any of the other months. And I have this per day, so that's why we have a single entry for every day. We need to go ahead and change this back to per month, just like this. All right, now it looks a little bit better. Okay, so as you can see, we have a single entry for every month of the year from start of the year, as you can see. And then each of these entry points is basically corresponds to how many posts we have published in that date range, right? From start of the month till end of that month, right? And that's why we're calling count. It's counting the number of items on that month, right? Since we're passing per month. So that's all we have to do, guys, okay? Now, again, we could have made this, for example, be per day and only show the blog posts, you know, published on a day over the last month. So how many posts per day? I don't think that's going to be that useful. I think per month is a little bit more useful. So we can see if we are consistent every month, you're publishing, you know, how many blog posts. But you can go ahead and play around with this. Now we do have an issue with this. This isn't technically how many blog posts we have published, it's how many blog posts we have created. Because by default, it uses the created at column, right? But on our post model, we're actually using the published at to determine when it is published. So we do need to change that. Now, I didn't find this on the documentation, at least not over here on the GitHub, but we can go ahead and take a look at the trend class over here. I'll just open it up. You can see there is a date column property over here. Okay, so we can go ahead and change this up. I'll just search for it, and there is a method of date column which we can use to change it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and call that. In this case, I'm going to say a date column and then set it to published at. So it will go ahead and use published at instead of created at by default. Okay, so let's save that up, guys. That's all we have to do. I'll reload it. And now, as you can see, it still looks the same because the day of, I think, publication and creation was exactly identical. But that's all we have to do. Okay, so now one more thing you may also want to do, guys, is make this chart be full width. So by default, as you guys can see, it isn't full width. So it's only taking half the space. Now for this one, I'll just go ahead and open up the chart widgets. And if you look at this class, it does have, we need to go to the widget actually. It has a property of a column span, right? So we can go ahead and override this to set our how many columns it takes. So I'll just go ahead and add that to our post per month. You guys can just type it in if you like. So you can pass in 1 or pass in, for example, 2 to take 2 columns. Or if you want it to be full, you can just pass in the string of full, right? Just like this. Now it does also accept an array. So in the array, you can go ahead and pass it in like different sizes for different kind of display sizes. Okay, so that's up to you. In this case, I'm just gonna always have it be full screen or take the full space. And as you can see, it takes int, string, or an array, right, for the types. So in this case, I just set it to full. And if you reload, now it takes full width. You can also set the height if you want, but I'll keep it as is for now. Although it is very big, not gonna lie, okay? So that's for the widgets. Actually, one thing we can do is we can maybe move this at the bottom of the page instead of at the top. So let's actually try that. And I can show you guys how the footer works. So instead of get header widgets, I'm gonna change this to get footer widgets on our list posts. So let's do a reload. And now it is moved at the bottom of the page. Okay, so as you can see, you can also show the widgets at the bottom. So that's it, guys, for this one. I do also like to show you guys how to use table widgets. And I want to show the table widget on our dashboard page only. Let's also actually add the posts chart on our dashboard as well. So admin panel provider. And in this case, I'm going to say, what was it called? Posts per month chart. All right, so let's also register this. Let's do a reload. And yeah, so now we are showing it on our dashboard as well. So next up, we are going to create another type of widget called table widget. And as the name suggests, it's basically like a minified table. Okay, so now I don't know if it's mentioned anywhere on the documentation. Maybe we can search for it. I'm going to say widget table. It is. Okay, so it's under the panel builder. And the command is also identical. The only difference is we do dash dash or tag tag table. All right, so super simple stuff. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for this one. Now for this one, my idea is on the dashboard page, I would like to show the latest comments that we have, okay? So we can see what comments our users have posted. So let's go ahead and create that one real quick. So I'll open up the terminal. Again, as always, we're going to say PHP artisan, make filament widget. I'm going to say latest comments table or latest comments widget. You can name yours whatever you like, guys. It's up to you. I'll just name it latest comments. And then we can say dash dash table. Okay, let's hit enter. Now it asks if you want to put it inside a resource. I will say yes. I'll do comment resource and hit enter for the next one as the admin panel. Okay, so this is going to be very similar to what we've done so far for registering it. So I'll actually register it first. So we need to open up our comment resource. I'll open up the list comments page as well as the widget we just created, which is latest comments. And again, all of them are inside app, filament resources, and then comment resource. Did it close the page? Yeah. So first step, let's go ahead and actually register it. So I'll do that real quick. Header actions, gonna be header widgets, and we are going to return latest comments class. Actually, I probably should have added the widget at the end. You guys probably want to do that. I'll rename it right now. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Latest comment widget. Although I think table would be better, but I'll just name it widget, and then I'll do it over here as well. All right. And we need to do the exact same thing here as well. I just remove this. I say latest comments widget. All right, good. So now that we have done this, what is the issue right now? Oh yeah, we have 2 parentheses. Okay, so let's save this. Let's go back. We should now be seeing an empty table, right? As you can see, it doesn't even look empty. It just looks off, right? So that's because we haven't implemented the widget yet. So let's open it up. Now for tables, it's somewhat similar to the tables inside the resources. It has a table method with a column section. However, it does have an extra query method you need to implement always, okay? And in this one, basically you're telling it what method or basically what model you want to query or show the results for. So in this case, if you hover over it, if you guys are on PHP Storm or you have the PHP plugin installed on VS Code, you can see that it actually accepts a builder or a closure or a null. And builder is basically eloquent builder class, right? So in this case, we can, for example, if you're doing for our comments, we can say comment. And let's say we want to get all the comments that were published last week or posted over the last week or last month, right? In this case, for example, I can say where date created at is bigger than, so all the comments published from, let's say, last month or something like that. And here we can go ahead and use Carbon to quickly get a date. Let's say the last 14 days. I'm going to say sub days 14, right? So I'm getting all the comments published over the last 14 days. And that's all we'll do too, okay? That's all we have to do. And then maybe we can say start of day. Yeah, because technically this won't be over the last 14 days. It will change. So I'm going to say start of day. So that's all we have to do. And again, this where date will return a builder type, and then Filament will be able to use it. So that's all we have to do. And then inside the columns, this is exactly identical to what we did on our resources, right? Actually, if I show you guys the table, this is the same columns method. Actually, this table also has the query, right? Which you could still define. So we can go ahead and use the text column inside our widget as well. So that's what I'm going to do exactly over here. I'm going to say text column make, and I'm going to say comment. I'll do text column created at, and I think we can also pass in a date over here. And then we can copy paste this for, let me open up the comment model. So on our comment, we also have a user and a post relationship. So we can also go ahead and show the author and the post that it was commented on. So in this case, I'm going to say a user.name and as well as maybe post.title to get the author as well as the post they commented on. So let's save this. Let's go back. I'll do a quick reload. And as you guys can see, we now have this table. By the way, I don't want to show the table on the comments page, but I'm just showing it right now for testing purposes. So if you're not seeing any comments, that's probably because I haven't posted any comments over the last 14 days. Let's make this, I don't know, 100 days or something. Okay, as you can see now, we are able to see our comments, right? Again, I haven't used this blog over the last week or so, so I haven't posted any comments. But if we did have comments and we had this set to, let's say, 7, it would have shown those to us, right? As you can see, it is now working. For testing, I'll just keep it at, let's say, I think 70 days we should have, or the 70 days. We do. Okay, so now that it is working, so as you guys can see, very easy to do the table. And again, you can also go ahead and define filters as well. This works exactly the same way as it does on your resource pages. Okay, so if you have anything on the resource page, you can also do it on the table widget. So I'm not going to be doing that today because I don't want the video to be too long. It's already very long. But if you guys would like, you can add your own custom filters as well. And of course, you can make this sortable as well. So in this case, I'll make it this one be sortable. All right, good stuff. So let's go ahead, open up our list comment. I'll get rid of the widget over here because I don't want it. So I'll do that. I'll also remove the imports. So I would like to show this on our dashboard page actually. So I'll open up the dashboard page. I'll say admin panel provider, and I'll add it under posts per month. So I'm going to say a latest comments widget class. That's it. So let's save this. Let's do a quick reload. I'll scroll down, and as you can see, we are now seeing it here. Now it's not full width. So what I'll do is I'll actually open it up and do the exact same thing we did for our posts per month chart, right? We use this call span. I'll do the exact same thing. I'll set its call span to full width. Okay, I think it looks better if it's full width, so I'll just set it as full width. So let's do a reload, and as you guys can see, it is now full width. Now I think I have made a typo in the created at. I have indeed. So let's make this be created at. Now one thing we didn't do, again I messed it up. One thing we didn't do, guys, when we implemented our comment section was an approval process. So if you guys have implemented that on your own as an extra, practice, you can actually go ahead and maybe add some actions to approve or disapprove or delete comments here if you guys would like. So I'll leave that to you guys to go ahead and implement. In our case, we don't really have that, so it's kind of useless. But if you guys would like, we can go ahead and add that. Okay, guys, last thing we are going to cover, since the video is getting really long, is how to add a button to go ahead and actually view the comments. So right now it's kind of useless. If we click on any of these, nothing is happening, right? So we are able to see the comment, but what if we want to edit it or we want to delete it? How can we do that? So on our comments page, we actually have this edit button, or we could have added delete or any other button. So we need to go ahead and add an action button similar to this on our widget. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. Now, if you open up your widget on the table, you can actually go ahead and call an actions method on it, which is similar to on our resource pages. However, the default, the existing edit, create, delete buttons or actions won't work here if you try them. So we need to go ahead and maybe use our own custom action buttons here. Now, this is relatively easy to do. So let me show you guys how it is done. Now, first of all, we need to go ahead and add the class of action, which is filament tables actions. Now, if you don't like to import it, you can obviously go ahead and add it this way as well. So actions, action. My bad. Action. So this is the class. Did I remove the import? I still have the import, so I'll make it be action because I think it's a little bit easier on the video. Now for the make, basically the first argument is the name of the button, what is shown on the button, right? In this case, I'll just call it view. Okay, so let's just name it view. After that, there are a couple of different ways you can go ahead and use actions. For us, I want it to be a link, right? So we can just go ahead and call a method of URL, and it will make our action button be a URL or a link. Now it accepts a string or a closure or also a null, but in our case, obviously we can't just hard code the string or the URL because we don't know it. We can go ahead and use a closure. In this case, you can just pass in an anonymous function. You can also use an arrow function. That's what I'm going to do, guys, because it's going to look a bit shorter, and also want to show you guys how it's done. Basically, you do fn for function. Now for the argument, this method does accept an argument, and it is going to be the comment or the resource you clicked on, right? So if I click on this comment, it is going to pass me in or pass that comment to this method, right? So in this case, we can say comment. Now for the name, you can name it comment. I'm going to name it a record, and I show you guys why in a second. And then the return type is of string, right? Now this one is technically optional. You don't have to do it in PHP, but I'll just add it just to be safe. All right, and that's all we have to do. So this is kind of like the arrow function, right? If you guys have used JavaScript arrow functions, it is kind of similar in that sense in terms of syntax. Now, in this case, obviously we can return a string of sorts, right? Now we obviously don't want to return a string, we want to return a route. Now, in order to get the edit page link for our comments, there is a way of doing it. We can go ahead and get the comment resource, and it comes with a method of get URL, right? It's kind of a helper method that allows us to get the URL for the different pages. As you can see, guys, for example, it has a name. That's the page you want to get. So index page is obviously the index page. There is one for edit page. So in this case, I'm going to pass in edit for the edit page. And then as the second argument, it takes parameters, right? So we obviously need to pass in the comment we want to edit. Now, for this one, I'm not sure if it's documented. It's in the documentation. I'm not sure. But one way you can get the parameters, guys, is go ahead, open up your terminal and just type in PHP artisan route list. I actually did it just before here. PHP artisan route list. And just check for all the filament routes. And if you look at all the filament routes, they are using the name record. Okay, so it's consistent all around for the parameters on the URL. So we can just go ahead and use a record. And that's why I named this one record, right? You could have still named it comment, but that's why I use record. So in this case, we can pass in a map or an associative array and say record is equal to record, right? That's all we have to do, okay? So, or your comment, right? So just make sure this one is a record. The second one can be of whatever name you like. And that's all we have to do, guys. So let's save this. We can go back, do a reload. As you can see, now we have a view button. And if I hover over it, it's going to be very small at the bottom left, but the links are indeed correct. I click on this one. And as you can see, guys, we are on this comment. Of course, if you had like an approval system, we could have gone ahead and maybe approved it, disapproved it, whatever, or maybe we can go ahead and delete it as well. So very nice. And that's all we have to do, guys. So that's it. Now, if you like to open the comment on a new page, you can also say a new page, open URL in new tab, and add this method. So this will make it so it's opened on a new tab, so you can view multiple comments quickly. So let's say I click on this one, opens it on a new tab. I can click on the last one, also opens it on a new tab, right? So it allows you to work on multiple ones, so you don't need to go back and forth between the pages. So that's it, guys, for today's episode. The video is already very long, I think almost 38 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you get notified of the latest videos. And if you have any video suggestions, leave them in the comment section below, guys. This course is almost done, so there are not that many episodes left, so I'm looking for new courses to create. So if you guys have any suggestions, make sure to leave them down below, especially for small videos or even long format videos. I appreciate that. Okay, that's it, guys. I see you guys on the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.